What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Anti-Gravity Group podcast. My name is Braden Carlson.
I'm Taylor Jesse.
My name is Shane, or as you might know me, Postart.
And today we are joined by another guest, a guest that in these circles really doesn't need any introduction. You probably know him from hits on BPS.Space and the world-renowned iCarbonated milk, Mr. Joe Barnard.
Thanks for bringing that up, and thanks for having me on.
That is a classic. I remember it just like kind of appeared in my YouTube recommendations once. I was like, is this the same Joe Barnard? What a
One and the same.
A staple. But so today we've kind of established a little bit of a contest that Joe was kind enough to join us for. Basically, Taylor set the rules, so if you want to break it down, go right ahead.
We'll see if I get my own rules correct because I didn't write them down, but I believe it was a highest altitude with a 2.6 inch minimum, like for the minimum diameter on a J90.
You kind of gave yourself away there a little bit because you said
That was not quite
minimum diameter.
What?
But you said minimum diameter. It just has to be a standard tube size. But
Sorry, but the not minimum diameter rocket, but the minimum. Oh
no,
yeah.
What you said was correct, but yeah. So
it wasn't a minimum diameter of 2.6. It was just not minimum diameter.
Right. Yeah, you kind of opened your hand up a little bit there. So now we all know that you did a 2.6 inch rocket.
It was okay. Let me do it again without giving my design away. It was to not be minimum diameter, fly on a J90, and use off the shelf components. However that
there we go.
Or
all
regular
right. Stuck the landing
size components. There we go.
So we're going to have to be sort of descriptive here for the people that are listening to the podcast and not watching it when we present our designs. But if everyone's comfortable with it, it'd be great to have some screen sharing going on. And does anybody want to volunteer to go first?
Can I go first?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just want to go first so that everyone knows where the bottom is, like where the worst design is. So I have to preface this a little bit before I show anything. I do like a lot of my designs in OpenRocket, but they're really crude because a lot of my stuff is more in CAD, and what I'm trying to do is just estimate mass properties. So I'm cutting my own fins and like I don't roll my own tubes, but it's, I'm just, instead of getting the totally accurate like tube density or whatever, I'm just like, great, I'll create, I'll measure what the rocket actually is when I build it, and then I'll put some estimate like, completely unidentified mass objects around. So
gotcha.
The real challenge for me here was not making the rocket go high. It was figuring out how to put a centering tube in a rocket, in OpenRocket. But okay, yes. So I will share my screen here. Let's see. Do I select screen or presentation?
That's a good question, actually. Mine just says presentation.
Go to screen and then window.
Oh,
wants
wow.
me to upload a slide presentation.
It's like
Screen,
an
window.
integrated.
Awesome. Thanks, Shane.
Yep.
Okay. So I get up to about 1,357 meters. I don't know what that is in freedom units. But maybe don't give it away if like you got higher, but I imagine that everyone else got higher than this. So I'll walk you through what I'm doing. And again, a lot of it was like haphazard chosen. Oh shoot, you can't see the window. So I can't show you. Well, okay, I can just describe what it is. So the inner motor mount tube is, if I look in the parts library, it was a thin wall tube from, I think, like Always Ready Rocketry or something.
Okay.
The outer tube was also a thin wall cardboard tube. Oh no! Oh yeah. No, it was a thin wall lock cardboard tube. It's a BT 3.0 is what they call it. So it's standard component. It's just 3 inches. because we said it couldn't be minimum diameter. The centering rings, I don't know what they are. I considered that to be kind of in the weeds on like, does it have to be a totally standard component? The fins are Delrin, which is a strange choice, but I was like, yeah, I'll do it a little weird. I'll go with Delrin. And Delrin fins of this shape at Mach 0.76 feels like we're probably going to flutter before this thing actually.
Nah, it's fine.
You don't think so?
I don't know what's the thickness on them.
Well, 0.18 or 0.11.
It
It's
could
thin.
be. Yeah. Well,
Maybe.
we're kind of
I don't
operating in
know.
a fantasy world that
Yeah.
fin flutter doesn't exist for these purposes.
But the real pièce de résistance here, or however you pronounce that. So the nose cone is a NC3 from, I wish you could see Giant Leap. It's polycarbonate. It's ogive, and it is just another standard component. But the cream of the crop here is I did not choose a standard component parachute, and I don't know if that's cheating, but my parachute, and I wish you could see this now. It's I picked a regular ripstop nylon parachute, 6 lines, 50 inches per line, and I made it an 80-inch parachute. So the parachute itself is basically the mass that we need up front to get the stability. So that was the approach here. Yeah, and it gets me about 1,357 meters and Mach 7.6.
The freedom unit
Oh my
conversion.
God, Mach 0.76.
Oh, 7.6, yeah. The J90s really just hit different these days. That's about 4,400 and change feet for those rushing to do the conversion. Yeah, I have to say, it doesn't look too far off of mine, just on a slightly different scale. I kind of had a feeling we were all going to land on like pretty similar designs.
Yeah.
But like Taylor said, the way he originally stated the rules was it had to be a standard tube size. So I think you're well within the rights to create a lump of a parachute up there for a little stabilization.
Yeah. I just didn't want it so someone was like, oh, not minimum diameter, I'm going to roll my own tube that's
2.3 inches.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to roll the perfect like vacuum bagged fiberglass tube or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I think it sounds like it's sort of like to just stay within the spirit of the rules, which is just like try to not do anything stupid.
Yeah, I think you stuck the landing on that.
Thank you.
But all right, well, good effort. We appreciate the starting point. I'm a little afraid of Shane's and Taylor's, to be honest. So
I have a feeling me and Braden's look very similar.
Between us or similar to Joe's?
Mine and yours look very similar, I have a feeling.
All right, well, do you want to go, or should I, or should Postart?
I want to see Postart's rocket.
All right. Well,
You've been voluntold.
Because I don't know I don't know how he thinks quite exactly. So
let's see here. All right, there it is.
The boat tail.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing we can take that off because that is not off the shelf. I made the material PLA, so that is 3D printed or would be.
Well,
but to reiterate,
they just need.
Yeah, Taylor said stock tube size. So
okay, that's what I thought. I didn't remember seeing off the shelf parts. Okay. Yeah, so it's pretty basic. The fin shape, boat tail. It's G10 tube, just fiberglass, thin wall fiberglass. I think I went with a 6-to-1 nose cone, I believe. But I got 10,429 feet.
Whoa.
That's so much better.
The fact that Taylor just said "whoa" is painting a picture here for me.
I did include like a weight block here with bulk plates just so I could kind of help out my center of gravity a little bit And then there's also half a pound of whatever weight in the nose.
An 80-inch parachute, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah,
10,000 is
That's really
insane.
good.
You
That
should
is
build this in real life
impressive.
now.
I kind of want to. It'd be fun.
I have to say,
So he just went a lot shorter. I was afraid to go that short.
oh, interesting.
I played around with it a lot.
I didn't
know,
really
I have-
spend that much time on it. I kind of just got home yesterday and threw something together. So props to
So-
you for.
Your stability caliber is at 0.5, and I'm curious to see. So mine was 0.28, which is sort of a choice. But I'm curious to see like how close is everyone's margin on like this thing working and not. So like if you made this and you were off by 10%, is that going to make the difference between it working and not? Because like for my design, it's not. It's going to break.
I think this would still be all right, just because stubby rockets typically have a lower stability caliber. So I think it might be all right.
The trick is that you're using a J90 though. So
Yeah.
is it going to wiggle when it comes off the pad?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
also 3-fin, and the whole thing kind of just relies on perfect conditions.
I was gonna say a little off vertical takeoff, and things are gonna get ugly fast.
You can have
Yeah,
a really long walk.
I did change the launch site altitude though, because I had it set for Alamosa, and it was, I think, like just cracking 11,000. So I went ahead and dropped it just in case we weren't sure of that. So it's at 3,500.
Wow. Okay.
I think we shouldn't we all be at the same altitude?
Yeah, I put mine at 38. It's not something I really. Joe, feel free to resim yours if you'd like.
Yeah, let me see where I am.
How do I change that? Edit
Go
simulation.
to tools and then, edit, preferences, and then launch. And it's right here. Oh, 3,800.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm at 0. Hold on. All right, I'm going to
Okay.
3,500.
Go 3,500.
That
and
actually
resim it.
explains like several.
I'm at 0 also.
All right,
Oh,
10,
no.
434,
So if we all go to 34, or what are we at? 3,400?
35.
Did that change anything?
Yeah, that's not looking great for me. But I'll take it in stride.
But yeah,
I'm now thinking the huge discrepancy in my altitudes might be that I had Roxim set for Alamosa as well. Because what's Alamosa is like 7,800 feet or 7,500
Yeah.
feet or something like that. They got that paper thin air out there.
oh yeah, the fins also, those are 1/8 carbon airfoiled.
Wow. Really went for it.
I did.
Like, this is like the most wildly expensive little J90 meme rocket that you could have
It is.
assembled. All right, well, Taylor, is it you or me in that case?
I guess I'll go next, but now I'm
You got
kinda
altitude envy?
I'm surprised my altitude didn't change more with the starting altitude. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Sounds like some
I'm
pretty
fine.
standard rocket guy stuff.
I only
Yeah,
get
I
up
don't know why
to
it didn't go
1,500
higher.
meters with the altitude change. I don't know about you guys, but it didn't improve it.
How do I? Let's see.
This is a very riveting episode for the audio only listeners.
Yeah.
Basically,
Trying to
all
figure
of the rockets are small and pointy. If you can picture that in your head, get a real good idea of it. All right.
Am I sharing? Okay. So
Mine's going to look so stupid, dude. Never mind. I don't want to play this game.
I went with like just a 2.6 lock tube, 24 inches long, and then a Giant Leap 5-to-1 pinnacle nose cone, and 4 3/32 carbon fins. And
330 seconds.
Yeah, he's been enjoying the 3/32 thickness
that's,
on.
yeah,
That is a
lately that's
crazy
been the
fraction.
I was trying to do that on mine.
0.093, I believe.
We do a lot of theoretical rocket design between us on Facebook Messenger. So,
if we did this, then that does this to our sim and all kinds of that. But it looks like I got 8770, so not quite as good as Postart. Oh, and I had a 28-inch lock chute in there and 4 ounces of nose weight. So I tried to make it so it was like legitimately stable in real life, or like to where I thought it would actually work to some extent. Maybe still be wiggly, but I don't know.
You've got the Arcus fins or the Kip Daugerdas fins or whatever.
They are Arcus fins, yeah.
Yep.
That's another thing we've been really attached to. Oh, I think I was telling you about that. We
were talking about that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. It's super efficient. Every time we put it on a design that we thought we had a fin shape pretty dialed, it just blows it out of the water, which is hysterical because it's literally like the root is 2 times the span of the body, and then every other dimension is the span of the body, and you're just cutting.
It's always kind of a bummer to find out that like people who were just like had no idea what they were doing in the 60s had like more idea than you and I did.
We joke about that all the time where they're like, haha, oopsie, the perfect fin shape, apparently.
Yeah.
And it's so satisfying. And the more I look at like other sounding rockets, I end up finding different things like that where you're like, that's the same thing used over here and it also works. So it's very interesting because I'm building a Nike Hercules right now, and then I find out that it's very similar fin dimensions for the booster, and I'm like, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
We're all just overthinking it.
Yep.
1960s technology was the pinnacle in all forms. All right, well, I guess it's time for me to embarrass myself here.
Yeah, you don't sound excited.
Oh. Why is it not letting me? Oh, guys, sorry. It's not letting me it's not letting me display it at all. Okay,
wow, that's
here
too
we
bad.
go.
Really unfortunate.
Looking at my design, I'm just gonna present it to you guys. Here it is.
Oh.
I really used space as efficiently as I could.
Braden, this is such a good podcast for everyone who's only doing audio.
I know. It's a really easy way to describe it is basically like a bullet that's almost the exact length of a J90. This one is pretty heavily relying on you checking the YouTube video out. But so if you're wondering why we're all dying laughing, now might be a good time to pause.
Do you know what's
just tell us how long your body. Tell us how long your body tube is, and that'll give the listeners an idea of what we're looking at here and why it's so funny.
It is 5 1/4 inches long.
How long is the motor, by the way?
It's like 9 inches or something.
Yeah, like 9.
Right.
So basically, what I did was I took a motor tube and I overhung it by 1 inch so that I could have a nice little boat tail going here. And then I put a nose cone, a Lock Precision nose cone on top of a Lock Precision 2.6 tube and just drug it down until the motor case, the little drawing of the motor case anyway, was almost touching the inside of the nose cone shoulder.
Now, my favorite part.
Yeah, that was taken into consideration as well. Yes, 2.6 times 2 is indeed 5.2. So
you usually have like a fin can and then the rest of your airframe, and you have like the fin came.
Yep. So I wanted to take this very seriously. So if you look closely, you'll see that I cut down the nose cone shoulder to sit perfectly on top of the centering ring there. And one thing I want to point out for those audio listeners especially is that weird transition hanging off the back there. This is an old Barrowman equation tricking thing that they wrote an article about it for the Apogee Peak of Flight newsletter some time ago. And it's just kind of a proven thing for moving the center of pressure to the appropriate location for a short and stubby rocket because the Barnard equation doesn't sim them well. It actually saved my dad's level 3 from some pushback he was getting from taps because they thought it was too short, and it flew straight as an arrow. So I'm really leaning into that, which is good because the fin span is hilariously small. One could say they're almost not even there.
Now,
Yeah.
what I would propose is that we each build our actual rocket and then see what the results are.
I reject this idea because mine was so far and away the worst of all of these. And I do want to point out, though, to make myself feel better, Braden, it's really funny at the lengths that you went to, and you are actually the second worst performing.
So
Actually, I should correct that. It's the lack of length that you went to.
right, yeah, exactly. So anyway, maximum altitude achieved according to OpenRocket was 7,410 feet. Although there is an addendum, I tried to change the atmospheric pressure to represent the correct altitude, and something went wrong in my settings. If you look at the second or the third simulation, it went 70,879 feet.
This is like everyone who shows up on the r/rocketry subreddit and is like, my like J motor is simming to 70,000 feet. I'm excited to fly it this Saturday.
Yeah.
We talk about this a lot back when N5800 minimum diameter projects were the things. Everyone's were simming to 100,000, and everyone showed up to BlackRock confident that they were going 100,000 feet.
A lot of overconfidence that they had the secret that other people didn't, and then
right.
Yeah.
Obviously, they didn't because their rocket shredded, but clearly, there's no fault in my design reaching 70,000 feet.
It definitely wouldn't tumble for 8 seconds.
I mean, I'm looking at your design. I literally see no problems.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to pick at here, but I did want to throw into the ether that the RockSim file says 11,438 feet. Initially, I was coming to this thinking it was going to be a little closer than it was, and then that maybe this wouldn't appear as stupid because I thought Taylor's design might be a little more similar. But now, looking at it, and again, audio listeners, I apologize, but this is a very video heavy one.
I mean, it is actually it's shorter than I think some bullet casings. Like if you imagine like a 50 cal or something like that, like it's shorter than that.
Yeah, it's kind of a work of art in its own way,
Wow.
Is
I
your
don't strive
parachute
for perfection.
hanging out of the nose cone?
Yeah, well, you'll run into that on these big jobs or small jobs, I guess, in this case. But I figured I could jam a parachute in there and get a little 18-inch in there or something. It's cardboard and 1/8-inch plywood. It should be fine.
What's your fin span?
Let's take a look.
If JPL can pack the Mars parachutes, like what is it, the density of oak or something like that?
Oh
We
yeah,
can do this.
yeah. I think it's perfectly reasonable. The 1.5 inches on the fin span there, Taylor.
Oh my!
A little under standard, but I think it would be just fine. The hilarious part is this would cost almost nothing to build. I just don't know if there's a launch site that would be like, yeah, give that a shot.
Far.
Are you kidding me? It's far. Just tell everyone to get into the bunker.
Yeah.
That's true. You're right. And that's only an hour and a half away from you. So maybe
Rick will let you do anything these days. He just wants you to get in the bunker.
He wasn't thrilled about my Santa, I have to say. And I'm mad because it flew straight.
The Santa was great.
I thought I was being aggressive with the J350 and it went like 90 feet. I could have kicked it higher, I think. Well, I think unless anyone's willing to give my design on RockSim specifically the benefit of the doubt, which I'm really not asking for, I believe Postart is the winner of the first Anti-Gravity Group podcast OpenRocket design off.
He earned it.
It feels
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
The first time it was appropriate to use the soundboard. You win the components to build my rocket, incidentally.
We need Braden's design, like the OpenRocket design there on a T-shirt. I think
That's what I was gonna say. We'll do
I
like
think it's
a
crazy.
really technical 2D CAD drawing of it and put it on coffee mugs. Very serious engineering. Oh my god. Well, I think that was a good segment. It's like we were discussing, a little heavy on the video side of things, but that's where most of our podcast listeners are.
Riveting
so
audio podcast.
Yeah.
I like to think people just have such good imaginations that they're laughing along with how stupid it was. But yeah. Anyway, we don't have anything else really planned other than diving into the mailbag section. But does anybody have anything they'd like to throw out into the ether before we get there?
We do need to hit the weekly segment of, do you have another 3840 yet, Taylor?
Oh yeah.
on
So
that.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the lore, Joe.
I'm a little bit, but you should recap. Yeah.
Okay. So Taylor bought a Dr. Rocket 3840, 75 3840 case, and then he even went out of his way to get a matching set of closures for it. And
That
then
came the day before we left for this launch.
yeah.
Where actually,
And,
I opened the mailbox as we were leaving, and they were in there, and I was like, "Oh, might as well bring these with
Yeah,
us." Even though
it was
didn't need
literally
them.
as we were walking out of your kitchen, you're like, I just want to open these and look real quick. Decided to bring them because our fourth anti-gravity group member, Macho Matt, was flying an L850, and he used some 9-volt batteries that how old were they? We determined like 18 months or
Yeah,
something like that. They'd just been sitting in the rocket, and saw no issue with go ahead and using those batteries. So the rocket.
although I'd
came
like
in
to make it
ballistic.
clear, he didn't tell me that they were 18-month-old batteries when I gave him my case.
Right.
He had been fooling us with a lot of I know how to do this now.
Yeah.
Everything's
So-
good, and we're like, yeah, do it.
Well, once you've had like 2 or 3 successes in a row, you know the rocket never fails again, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's just how it works.
Until
So,
it does.
He Taylor had been, mentoring him through high-powered rocketry up to that point, and he was right up until the tracker signal disappeared, really impressed with how far Matt had come in being able to do things on his own. So I think that makes week 6 now on the check-in of no 3840 case, and it's a sad, lonely world out there.
There's always
Anyway.
next week, I suppose.
Passar, how's your beautiful red 3840 case that's not in the ground in Argonia, Kansas?
It's really nice. It's really pretty. Real red and real above ground. Let me tell you.
Did you
Above
recover
ground.
it?
Yeah,
Oh no,
Ta-
it's
like
Taylor.
No, we don't. It had rained a bunch, so I'm thinking it's completely in the ground. The ground was
it's
pretty
totally
soft.
buried.
yeah, it was pretty windy too, so just the RDF signal wasn't a real good identifier of how far
I
away
know the
it
general
was.
direction, but since we weren't able to go out and walk in the field because it was so muddy, I mean, it wasn't really worth collecting that much mud on our feet to go look for
Yeah.
a hole. I just let it go.
So
And hopefully someone will, trip over it someday or something. But
We need like a metal detector that like can be attached to a drone,
oh my god, that's brilliant. You
I don't
imagine
think
all
it
the
would
free
work that-
hardware?
I mean, yeah.
you probably have to be pretty low. Either that or like
Yeah.
really
yeah.
hang it down from the drone.
Well, right, but you if you get like a bunch of batteries or just like run it really patiently, you just do it in like half-meter passes across a cornfield or whatever. Like, you know how many motor cases you'd find? Crazy.
Right. Another thing I had considered with a drone as well is not like it would be any sort of affordable, and you would have to do it right after the rocket flew. But especially on a cold day like that, if you had some way to have a thermal camera on a drone, you just have
Yeah.
to look for the warm spot.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But the FLIR cameras are like 15 grand, so that idea went out pretty quickly.
Yep.
But anyway, So following up on the 3840 case, once again, Taylor is still empty-handed and crying. All right.
That's
Well,
right.
let's move on to the Patreon questions. Unsurprisingly, they are all for you, Joe. Nobody had any questions for us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have to say, I posted it on Patreon, and nobody said anything for like 8 hours. I was like, I guess your videos are so in depth that just everybody knows everything there is to know. We're gonna start with Jeremy Sims' question: will you ever do another carbonated milk video?
Oh, come on. How was that the first one?
It wasn't, but your reaction at the beginning made me feel like it should be.
No. The answer is no. It's a lesson I have learned really powerfully. I don't want to get like too into it, but like I have learned this lesson so many times, which is that like sometimes something amazing happens, right? You fly a rocket and it happens to work, or you like do a group project and it works perfectly. And then you're like, great, what I will do is I will get all the same people in the same place again at the same time, and it will be just as cool. And it's never the case. Like it never works like that.
You can never
like,
go home.
Yeah. You can never go home. So we did it with the Christmas tree, right? Like my friend Zyla and I put an L1000 under a Christmas tree and made like these stupid 1/4-inch plywood fins, and it flew straight, and it flew at dusk, and it was like the most magical thing ever. And then we tried it again a second year because we were like, great, we'll just get like a bunch of the same people and do the same thing again. And it was terrible. It was like, I mean, it wasn't terrible. It just was like it flew sideways and it wasn't the right motor and like whatever. And the same thing is true with carbonated milk, except I didn't actually try it. I will never try to carbonate milk again because it was like lightning struck once, it will not strike twice.
So no carbonated pilk sequence to follow then.
No, I did carbonate coffee. Someone gave me like a super chat over the summer. And they were like, if I super chat you enough, will you put coffee in the soda stream and carbonate it and drink it? And it was like, mind you, it was like 8 or 9 p.m. at night. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll ruin the next day. Sure. And I did it, and it wasn't good. It was exactly as you'd believe. Yeah, no, I'm not doing it again.
You can only catch fire in a bottle, or carbonated milk in a bottle, I guess, in this case, so many times. I got a soda stream for Christmas, and that was the one and only thing I wanted from my parents, because I kind of on a sparkling water kick, and literally the first thing Postart wanted to do was carbonate the milk. I finally
Don't do it. Did you do it?
Yeah, I finally let him do it.
We talked about this before, how it
Did it ruin your
curdles
machine?
it.
Because like I still have the soda stream, and it has never worked the same. Like
Really?
it's okay. It's never quite worked the same.
See, what we did, we played it a little safe because I was like, I don't want to ruin this. This is a wonderful appliance.
Right.
So we attached a straw to the end and did like a little bit of carbonated milk. That way we're getting it all the way to the bottom. And fortunately saved it before the bubbles got up and over the top. So
I mean, that was the problem, is that all the milk, like that machine is filled with dried milk that is like 3 years old.
That's awful.
It stays in a cabinet for reasons you can imagine.
Yeah. We're going to whip out a GoFundMe for a replacement soda stream.
No, I don't want a replacement. It's nice to it's just like, I pull it out and I'm like, right, I did that thing one time.
Oh yeah, I wanted to enjoy this.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to a real question here. Emma Humphreys asks, what did you find useful in getting up to speed on engineering? I'm coming from a non-engineering background as well.
Oh man. I think it's tough. I feel like we should all answer these, but like it depends on the type of engineering, I guess. I'm a really big, and this is evident by how stupid my OpenRocket is, but like I'm a really big proponent of like just fly it, just like build it and fly it and see what happens. And as long as that's easier said than done if you're not at FAR,
Right.
And also, you want to make sure you're doing things safely, but like learning by doing is kind of my thing. Learning by experimentation. I think it depends on the type of engineering. There's a lot of stuff like electronics. You can try anything all the time forever, and it's totally safe. Like all you're gonna do is create some smoke, right? Like that's the worst thing that happens.
Right.
But I'm curious. I actually think I would be curious about what you guys have as an answer of like how you guys have done your engineering learning approach, whether it's like traditional or just in rocketry in general. Because like you're not taking a class in college that's like, here's how you do high power rocketry. Like we all have a bunch of stuff that is like, here's how you figure it out.
Yeah, I guess I'd say in my case, it was just a lot of watching other people do it and just trying to replicate. I mean, the rocketry forum forever when I was a teenager. The biggest one probably being Jim Jarvis. He had a write-up on how he did his hand-rolled carbon fiber stuff in Rocketry Planet. And I also was a bit of a problem child for a lot of people in rocketry, because if you did anything cool, you got an email from a 13-year-old Braden.
Yeah.
And if you dared reply, it became many, many emails. So the fact that Jim Jarvis and Vern Knowles still talk to me is a feat in its own.
Vern is great. But I mean, both of them are great, but yeah.
Anybody else want to feel that? Oh, Nigel the Rocket Cat has made an appearance.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah. Can we get a cat view?
For the audio listeners at home, there he is. He looks so mad.
Oh, he looks so mad.
You can tell he loves it. Yeah, I don't know. Just watching other people make mistakes and then recording that in my brain, and I don't know. I sort of always have some sort of a visual of what I have, sort of a self guide aesthetically, where sometimes it'll just lock in like that is stable or what, like I don't know. I have a really good feel for it, but I assume that, I mean, I wasn't born that way, so I would say that came from observing and building and failing, I guess.
Taylor
kid.
is the Barrowman equation.
I don't know the Barrowman equation, but I feel it.
It's like cooking with feeling. You don't measure
the Barrowman equation.
Yeah, exactly. He does have a knack for motor eject delays. If you fly a motor eject rocket, I'll send Taylor. I'm like, diameter, weight, length. And he's like, bang, here you go. And it's almost always perfect.
Just by feel.
Postart, your input?
I've always been a really big hands-on person. So I guess just watching other people, learn from them, and then try it myself. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But, just trial and error.
Yeah, a big influence on what we're really craving doing right now has been your videos, actually, Joe. We have been itching to mix propellant for quite some time.
Yeah. I did hear about this, yeah.
Now, you really seem to have dialed it in over there, and I'm just like, man, it looks so good.
I'll tell you what, man, that's the magic of video, because you don't see the parts that didn't work. There's a bunch of parts that I'll show in the next video too. Like the parts where I fractured a bunch of grains. I cast an entire batch into, and no shade to them, but like I cast an entire batch of like 40 pounds of prop into always ready rocketry liners, and they're spiral wound and they're bad and they have low phenolic content, or they're bad for high temperature prop. So like, this is too much detail, but you're only seeing the stuff that works. The next video is going to be great.
Awesome. Well, people love details, so don't be afraid. But it's interesting that on my personal channel, I like make a point to show when I mess things up, and it's not usually on a grand scale because I'm not doing anything dire that's going to blow up aluminum motor cases, but it's runs and paint and stuff like that. But what's really funny is in producing the videos for Wildman's channel, I everything just looks nice and easy. And there's a great message chat between me and Taylor from that really shows the discrepancy between the Mach 2 instructions for that kit that I did versus like the black Proline epoxy all over my
so
white
great.
desk. And everything I was doing, I was like, oh my God, I think I ruined it. And then the video is just like, and then all you do, boom, done.
Every 5 minutes, I'd get a new message from Braden. It's like, it's a disaster. It's ruined. I'm gonna have to get a new rocket. And then so it's really funny when you watch the video because it's like, and then you just put it together and it all works.
I remember one of them was my scale. I had a cheap scale that was, for some reason, if you didn't keep pouring fast enough, it would just stop. And then
that would like turn off.
Yeah. So it was epoxy by weight. So I was just like, and then you just do some simple fillets and then messages to Taylor. I'm like, oh my God, it's never going to cure. I have no idea how much hardener is in there.
I'll tell you what, it's different for if it's going on the Wildman channel. Like, if it's a commercial thing, it's different. But like, it's remarkable how once you're like, hey, I messed this up, when you tell people that, they're like, it's okay, you learned something. Like almost everyone that I've seen, and I assume the same is true for your channel, Braden, but like, when you're like, I messed this up, people are like, it's fine. No one like rakes you over the coals for it.
Yeah. Nobody worth listening to anyway.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get that one guy.
Idiot. Of course,
dude, I had a kid today.
You don't know anything.
I had a kid today who emailed me and he said, I have a great rocket design, and sent me a Google Images, like a Google Photos link. And it was 3 pictures from Roblox. He had designed it in Roblox.
That's sick.
It didn't really look like a great rocket. Like, it had no fins. It was just like, some weird looking thing, but it was so funny.
It is. You get like some interesting, right now somebody's building a Macho Matt meme rocket, and they like emailed me to ask for permission to use a screenshot to print Matt's face to put it on the rocket. I was like, cool with me, but like maybe let's ask Matt if it's cool if you put his face on a rocket.
It's gonna come off a little creepy if we don't ask him, I think.
Yeah.
All right, well let's move on. We're sorting through the questions here. Our friend Neutronium, mutual friend of ours, has 2 questions. We'll start with the important one. What epoxy has the best mouthfeel?
I like Loctite 9340, which is I think one of their high sol brands. Yeah. It's like the taste isn't crazy, it's subtle. But yeah, as far as mouthfeel goes, that's what you're going to want to use. Rock epoxy is like a close second. Right. And it's part of why it's so good is that at least for the last year, it's been kind of hard to get, right? It's on and off the market. So it's a little bit like, it's a rarity. So it's, when you can eat it, it's pretty good, pretty nice.
It's for special occasions, and it's kind of like wine. It's it's been aging because it's been hard to get. So the older it gets, the better it gets. Yeah. There's actually a really funny meme video that my dad and I made that I think is still on the Rocket Vlogs channel. I was like 14. We were building a Wildman Ultimate Dark Star, and we made this video where we were like, you don't have to use West Colloidal Silica to fill your epoxy for fillets. We use Splenda. And so we just like poured some Splenda into this cup that we then actually used to mix epoxy and laid it all out. And at the end, my dad just took a big spoonful of Splenda out of it and ate it. He's like, you don't even have to waste it. And Wildman Tim actually called. He was like, you didn't actually put Splenda in that, right? But yeah, so I'm glad the great minds think alike with eating epoxy.
Everyone was so concerned about that. I remember at the time.
In fairness, though, I did post a lot of really dumb stuff when I was that age, so it didn't seem that out of the question. And they probably looked at my dad and were like, that makes so much sense as to why this kid is so stupid. His dad's eating epoxy in front of him. But
I think I thought at the time like that you were being serious, and then once there was backlash, you're like, no, we were just joking.
You're like, oh, he's backtracking now.
Yeah.
This man's eating epoxy, and now he's trying to hide it. But Neutronium's more serious question is, what's your favorite commercial motor?
Right now, it's the L1000. I'll tell you why. I love that I can buy this very large motor, and it's DMS. I just like, and it's not even a DMS where you bond the grains in or whatever. Like, you pick up one of these things and you do this, you do one of these, and for audio listeners, I'm just sliding it side to side, and the grains are just shifting around in there.
Yep.
Like, there's got to be a half inch of play in those grains.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And like, I bought a couple from Wildman on Friday, and I think they're showing up like sometime this week. I bought a couple, and like, they're going to show up and they're just ready. Like, I put them in a rocket and they're good.
It is awesome.
So I love those. And it's not that like you need a massive big motor, but right now I'm running this test campaign. And this is going to be so tough for audio listeners, but I've got this rocket. So I flew this at FAR a couple of days ago, and the goal is it's 3 normal fins, and then one fin has a small control surface on it. So it like tilts around the roll axis. And this is very, it's not like NAR Tripoli. It's just stuff that can happen at FAR because Rick Maschek will let you do whatever you want.
Friends
and
of amateur rocketry, not hobby rocketry, right?
That is true. But anyway, yeah, and I've been loving this L1000 because it gets this design that I have. It gets it up to Mach 1.5 every time, and it's like, great. We can test control subsonic, transonic, and supersonic, and it's perfect. So that's my favorite commercial motor.
The perfect control motor. That's actually the Wildman Mach 2 kit was designed for a government contract of some sort for some sort of radar testing, from what I understand. And they just built like 50 of them and flew every one of them on L1000s. Just super consistent motor. And easy. Yeah. I flew one when they first came out. They were having some issues with blowing up. So my motor vendor in Idaho was like, hey, I got a free L motor for you if you have a rocket you're not afraid to destroy. I was like, okay, yeah. So we flew it and it worked fine. But you can ask both Taylor and Shane. For a while, I was like, it's the best motor ever made. Like, there's no arguing this. The L1000 is it. We kind of
Taylor
covered...
and Shane, do you guys or do you guys have a favorite?
Yeah. I feel like I'm obligated to say the K1100 because it's just good. And I've flown more of those than arguably any other commercial motor. So the results say that's probably my favorite motor.
He's literally been flying K1100s longer than Shane has been alive.
Yeah. I don't know how
Not
valid
quite,
mine is.
But
pretty close.
Anyway, 2007 was the first one.
Oh, so I was 4.
Okay. Yeah.
Mine tends to change.
When you put it like that.
Yeah, you're old, dude.
My favorite tends to change every once in a while, but lately I've been on a kick that I want to fly another L1940.
Propellant X is awesome.
Yeah.
That's barring being able to get CTI stuff at the moment. That's kind of like the hardest commercial propellant you can buy right now.
Is CTI stuff done? Like, aren't they kind of just spooling down?
I think they're just real busy with like Up Aerospace and commercial stuff. But Wildman Tim, I should say, did recently get an order. And there was kind of, in his trailer at Midwest Power in Chicago, there was some pretty desirable stuff in there.
Yeah.
Some White Thunder floats and everything.
Chris Short got a bunch in. It just seems like they're real, they're not doing all the propellants. So it seems
it's
luckily there's like White Thunder, which is like one of my favorite CTI propellants, but
it's like
White
a 14
Thunder, Sea Star, and I don't know. I saw some Green 3.
Right. There was a theory because I was trying to get an N1560, the 6XL long burn, and somebody presented a theory to me that they're having trouble, just like most people, sourcing 90 mic AP.
Oh man,
why their production is limited.
I could talk about that for a while.
I don't know if there's any validity to that, but it is a decent theory. But yeah. So you can still get them, and my favorite motor does go all over the place right now. In terms of one that you could actually get is the M1675 pink, just because it's a pink. It's blue and red propellant grains. It's just goofy and fun.
That would actually, the 90 micron theory would make sense because Aerotech has not had like a slowdown as far as I can tell. And I don't think they're using 90 in any of their motors because they use like the fines 400 and 200.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Maybe we should just call them and ask. Like, yo, you guys
I don't know that
help?
would work.
They're just like, oh yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah. Here's the exact formula.
I'd like to whip some up on my own if that's cool. All right. So Bryce Chanis and his wife, Nicole, well, specifically Bryce on this one, I can say is, as a musician myself, I'm curious when the Braden/Joe collab album will drop.
Oh, I love Bryce. Hi, Bryce.
We can get Taylor in on that too. He's a drummer.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
That's right.
I've wanted to write. This is so stupid, and as I'm saying it out loud, I think I'll never do it. I've wanted to write a rap on Kalman filters. I think it'd be really funny. And now, as I say it out loud, I don't think I'm ever going to do it. But listen, let's do the collab.
If you're looking for someone to tell you it's a bad idea to record a stupid song, you came to the wrong place.
Yeah, you did.
Taylor's boss has a Ram ProMaster, and that's kind of our big rocket transport vehicle. And one time I jokingly called it the professional masterpiece. And now there's a whole song. And Taylor was just here this past weekend, and we really were kind of leaning towards actually recording like a funky.
If we had a
jazz.
little bit more time, and Braden could find the cable for the electric drums.
Yeah, we found that.
I found it.
The world needs to hear it. Yeah,
I think so. But when we've branched out a little
videos too.
Yeah, when we've branched out a little bit on my channel, things have gotten a little funky. I don't know if you've seen it. I did a YouTube poop edit of our friend Matt.
I did not see that. No,
it resulted in everyone 30 and under being super happy, and everyone older than that being just really confused.
And a few people really pissed.
Yeah, he threatened to rage quit my channel because, as far as memes go, it was a failure. So
I think it's so funny when individual people are like, "If you do this, I will unsubscribe."
I know,
and it is, especially if it's one person, you're like, "Oh my gosh, no, please don't unsubscribe."
Right.
That would be crazy. No, you have to start a second channel, man. The second channel's the move.
That's fair. Yeah, I have my car channel, and it's just my name. So I've been kind of thinking about branching out a little bit because I stopped posting on it forever. So nobody's paying attention to it anymore. But, we could just do a Rocket Vlogs 2, just behind the scenes. Rocket Vlogs 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah,
I think is perfect. But yeah, it's always interesting to. Why wait? Just unsubscribe now. I don't need another chance. Bryce's more serious question is, making rocketry content for a YouTube audience always has to be a balance between entertainment and education. Curious to hear discussion about striking the appropriate balance and the conscious choices you make as a content creator.
Oof. I don't think I always get this right. And I don't know that it's possible to always get it right. Because it really, at times it really feels like a balance between I don't know how to say it. I'll tell you what I've been doing more that seems to help me have a better sense of it, which is mostly just I've been hanging out with a lot of other rocketry people. So my goal is to just my goal is to I've been hanging out in the r/rocketry Discord a lot, and my own Discord and a couple other ones, interacting with other people on Twitter. And so the goal is to just not stop talking to people who actually do this a bunch, so that when I publish something or whatever and they see it, they're like, "Oh, have you thought about talking?" So Bryce suggested this recently. Over the fall, I did the dumbest thing that I've ever done, and I'm including the carbonated milk in that, which is that I made a rocket entirely out of hot glue. You can actually, if you can see it, it's right there.
Hot Glocket.
It's a rocket entirely out of hot glue, and in that video, spoiler alert, the first rocket that I build, because there are two, the first rocket shoots the motor out the back because as I raised the rocket on the rail, the ejection charge went off, fired by an Easy Mini. And so Bryce hit me up, and we were in the rocketry Discord, and this like probably wouldn't have happened without that. He was like, you should consider that like when you publish that on YouTube, you probably hurt Altus Metrum's sales. And also like you should talk to Badale Garby from Altus Metrum or like one of the people there to actually like share your flight data and be like, how do we improve this product? So there's like the forward facing or like the very like, quote unquote YouTuber thing where it's like, I'll just show up, you just show up and you post whatever you want and like pretend that nobody else exists. And like that's like the bad balance of like no shade, but like bad balance of like Mr. Beast. Like Mr. Beast isn't like diving into the details on like why his like elephant toothpaste experiment didn't work or whatever.
Right.
Or even Mark Rober too, like one of those YouTubers like Pop Science or stuff. I don't know how you strike that balance. I just feel like the best thing that I can do is like keep talking to a bunch of people and try to make sure that like if I like get something wrong, I like put it on YouTube or whatever. Or like when I did that thing in the hot glue video, like when the motor shot out the back, I didn't like move on and be like, oh, well, whatever. I like spent 2 minutes talking about like, let's talk about safety and stuff like that. So I don't think I always get it right, but yeah, it's hard to find that balance.
A very grounded answer. And yeah, it is an interesting thing because Shane and I were there when the Easy Mini fired and we had to take off. But I was just like, I wonder what happened because Matt had it happen with an egg timer altimeter, but we very happily put that on Matt because he assembled it. But, so I was, it's not something I'd heard of happening before, so it was interesting to get the full details on that. And yeah, that is just one of those things, like you said, could affect the sales. It's not something that just immediately comes to mind.
I love Altus Metrum stuff. I love that stuff. I mean, they're like saints walking the earth by publishing all of the data and schematics and open source. Like Badale Garby is the reason like a lot of open source stuff exists, like beyond rocketry. So sorry, not to interrupt, but just to like sing the praises of Altus Metrum.
No, yeah, I was going to say, actually, incidentally, this episode is brought to you by Altus Metrum.
Yeah, guys, use code Joey B for 10%.
But I recently bought some Altus products for the first time. But yeah, I was, we're all very stuck in our old school ways, so sticking with perfect flight and stuff has always worked for us. But I didn't realize how tiny the Easy Mini was until I actually saw one, and I immediately was like, oh wow, I kind of think I need that. So yeah, it's a great product.
Yeah.
Taylor, you want to do the ad read actually? All right, we'll move on. Our friend Alex Krachenko asks, when Meat Rocket is part 1?
Okay. So the Meat Rocket, and I'm only going to quickly do this because I've not shut up about the Meat Rocket for the last 2 years. But the idea is you take an N5800, you go minimum diameter. You don't go crazy with like thin fins and altitude records, but you can get close to Mach 3 on it, right? So you take the N5800. I'm losing my voice. Sorry. And if you put a tiny piece of meat, and I'm talking like 1 square inch of thin sliced meat, slightly under the nose cone, and you do a really thin tip nose cone, you can transfer a lot of the aero heating that happens because of how fast you go into that thin sliced piece of meat and cook it a little bit. So I wouldn't do it with chicken. I wouldn't do it with something where you have to get to like 165 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever. And you have like, salmonella if you don't. But I think it's possible with like a little tiny piece of Wagyu beef or like whatever. And I have felt like I'm about 2 months away from the meat rocket for about 2 years. And I'm trying to view meat rocket as a tech tree burn down or like a technical development burn down thing. So it's not just that I want to cook meat. It's that I want to put small control surfaces in the fins. And that is like the current thing that is barring it from flying. So with the L1000 flights that I talked about, I'm trying to make sure that my CFD or like fluid dynamic sims are actually correct. And if those are correct, then I'm comfortable placing the order for Xometry to make the fins, which means I'm comfortable building the nose cone for the meat rocket, which means it'll fly ideally this spring.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
there you go. And then he says, on a more serious note, how do you keep from burning out, and what drives you to keep making progress, especially when working on tasks or projects that may be stressful, challenging, or difficult?
Okay, here's my thought. You guys should answer this first. I'm going to get myself a glass of water.
All right.
So you guys should take this one first. I'll be right back.
Sounds good. Anybody want to field that?
I mean, I don't really have a problem with rocket burnout because I just love it. I mean, I guess there was burnout on the Hercules project, but it's really just like push the thing that's hurting you away for a while and work on things that make you happy.
Right.
Like I've been working on other rocket stuff this whole time. So, whatever's making you like want to quit, just like get rid of that and build fun, dumb rocket.
Right. Yeah, I don't really experience a burnout on working on rockets. Well, except for when I get to the sanding point a lot of the time. But I just have enough rockets that I'll just start building a different one.
You and I on the Arcus, that sure felt like I wanted to quit everything.
Yeah, me too. Well, yeah, but one thing I can say I experienced a little bit of burnout on is producing these videos. And it's interesting because I've already been through I have to make these videos or dire consequences thing with my previous YouTube channel. So I kind of I feel like this is applicable across the board. If it's not pressing, if you're not, life's not depending on it, then it's easy. It's not easy necessarily, but it's beneficial to just step back and be like this isn't dire. Like I don't need to press for this to exist, which is why I haven't posted a video in an entire month. I was posting weekly for months straight, and I was just like, it's not my life's not dependent on this, and if it's stressing me out, then there's no reason to spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah, I'm a really big advocate for like just stepping away from things. Like you said, when it's not dire, it seems dumb, but it's really kind of crazy how much it can help with burnout.
Yeah. I agree with all of y'all, which is just like, yeah, if it's not, I even think like most of the stuff that 2 or 3 years ago, more than that, I don't know, most of the stuff at any point in trying to do the YouTube stuff, or even back when I was doing like wedding videos and things like that, most of the things that felt very important or imminent, or like if I don't get this done by Monday and it's Friday, it's over or whatever. And like that was never true. Looking back in hindsight, that stuff has never been true. Like people slip deadlines all the time.
Right.
And they slip deadlines and like you don't necessarily know it, but like sometimes it's just because they need to take care of themselves. And like you need to go take a walk. I don't know, man. Going outside does something to my brain.
Touching grass.
Literally touching grass. And then the other thing I think is, for me, I think I did a video about this like years ago, but for me, burnout has more to do not necessarily with how hard I'm working, but how many things that I'm working on are going well. So like if I'm out at FAR every other weekend and like each time I fly, it's going great. It doesn't matter that I'm working really hard or that I'm like spending all of my free time just, sanding. Although sanding sucks. I get that. But yeah, like it doesn't matter too much if it's working, and if it's not going well, if like I'm cratering rockets, if I'm losing motor cases, if I'm losing flight computers and stuff like that is super demotivating. And that I think is the thing that makes burnout happen more. So like I don't know, for some reason it helps for me to recognize that when I'm feeling really like demotivated or whatever, usually it helps for me to say like, okay, the reason I'm feeling this way is probably just because it's not working right now. And so like the approach that Taylor said first too, which is just like go work on something else. That's why that works, right? Like it works because you just pick another project that you can get an easy win with,
Right.
And like progress is satisfying. Like when it all like you get the result.
Exactly. Yeah, I think progress is really motivating, and a lack of progress is really demotivating. Right. So it's this like vicious. It's this what is it called? Like a circular dependency, where you just have to like kickstart it with something that works.
Yeah, when you have multiple things coming from different directions that are all going really bad, that's when it like just pushes you into a hole, and it's like that's when you have to step away because it gets really tough.
Yeah,
the grass
100%.
is always greener. But all right, we got one final question from our friend Jonathan Gabry. And I know you have in the past, so I'll reword this question a little bit. But do you ever plan on selling flight computers that you make again?
Yes. Yeah. Can I show you one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second. Hold on. Like, this is horrifying. I think it's like 4 years now. 4 years ago, 3 years ago, when I was living in Nashville, I had made a flight computer that thrust vectored model rockets. And it was cool. It was good. It, was not a market that was sustainable, and it was really expensive because like you sell a couple of them and you have to make them expensive in order to make a business. So it just didn't like work that well. And then I thought like, okay, cool. Well, what's a thing that I could sell higher volume? And so I made a dual deploy computer called ARC. And it's like Bluetooth. It's like got 2 Pyro channels. It's got a little beeper and SD card and all that stuff. And this is like 4 years old, and I never did anything with it. And so I still kind of plan on doing something with it. Because I think, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like so many of the problems with dual deploy computers that happen with like people who are new to using them or whatever is just user error. Like the computers, I don't think fail that often if you're like following the manual.
Right.
But they're not super intuitive. Like you have to learn the language of the beeps or whatever. Yeah.
Cool.
Which is kind of fun. Like it's fun lore, but it's not super intuitive. So
that's another reason we're so stuck with the altimeters that we have is that both MissileWorks and Perfect Flight, 3 beeps means you have continuity on both apogee and main charges. And that's just what we know.
So you can really fly it out of the box, and it's like you know what it's telling you. You don't have to like cross-reference a bunch of manual stuff.
Yeah.
You don't buy one with the knowledge that that's what you're listening for. Is obviously we learned it, but it's
and everything's
really easy
different,
to
right?
pick up
Telemetry turns on and it beeps out the battery voltage, and then Stratologger does different things, and it's all over the place. So I don't know that this necessarily solves it, but the whole deal is that this is the same Bluetooth app that the TVC computer stuff does. And I was like, well, I already made the app. It'll just be like, putting a Jolly Logic in your rocket or whatever.
Right.
So I don't think this comes out anytime soon, and I don't think it's this is far from an actual product. But like, yeah, I plan on trying some stuff again.
Awesome. Well, that is all the questions we've got. So I think that pretty much wraps it up, unless anybody's got something they want to throw out there. You need the Jeopardy music. All right. Well, in that case, my name is Braden Carlson. You can find me on YouTube at Rocket Vlogs, and hopefully you're already watching that on here because this episode might not hold up well for audio listeners.
My name's Taylor Jesse, and you can find me on YouTube at the Rocket Channel and wherever else, I guess.
Just around.
My name is Shane or Postart. You can find me on YouTube at Postart Propulsions. Still working on that video. But yeah.
And my name's Joe, and you can find me on YouTube at BPS.Space.
Thank you so much for joining us, Joe. It was awesome having you. We are the Anti-Gravity Group. This is the Anti-Gravity Group podcast, and we will see you next time.